Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I am Ryan Wormeli, joined as always by Derek Brown. Well, not as always, I guess, but joined as sometimes by Derek Brown and by Jake Ciely from The Athletic. Guys, we are talking some breakout candidates here. We'll be focusing, of course, on guys in the middle and late rounds. We're going to do this countdown style, 5-1 from each of you, ending with our number one breakout candidates. D-Bro, how are you feeling the day after Fantasy Fest?
I was like, we do one or two segments on Fest. I haven't podcasted with you forever, and I already feel like I hear the hints in your voice of, oh, God, another show with this dude? I'm doing good, Worm. Love you.
I love you too. Also, you might notice the 2 hours of the fest that I was hosting. I did the first 2 hours yesterday, which probably everybody should go check out. It is available. You can rewatch it on YouTube. You can pick and choose your favorite segments with favorite guests if you want. We had JJ Zacharyson, Andy Behrens, Tara Roberts, Dave Richard, Jamie Eisenberg, Justin Boone, Jake Ciely. Tons of people on there. It was a super fun time.
The lead there, dude. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of going in order of when folks appeared on this show, but it was 6 hours if you include the hour on Twitch at the end, the after party of fantasy coverage. So everybody should go check that out. There's a best of the fest available audio version on like Spotify and wherever you listen to your podcast also. So we had a ton of fun. I will point out, D-Bro, that in the 2 hours that I was hosting, I don't think we discussed a single Ravens player. So you can, back off of this stance finally.
It's fine. It's fine. Contractually, I know that you're obligated to mention the Ravens at least once every show, even if it's not a player, seeing as we've done here. So I get it.
So
Per the contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say, if you do want to watch the mock draft, probably the most fun.
That was a lot of fun.
D-Bro and I were taking shots at each other the entire time, including I almost cursed live on your stream.
It was a lot of fun, dude.
Well, Jake, besides hopping on to the fest, what do you have going on these days, especially over at The Athletic?
I mean, the full draft kit is basically almost done at this point, but I will say I actually did one that, by the suggestion of one of the heads of all the New York Times, said the draft mistakes that people make, because I brought it up at a meeting that we were doing. Somebody asked me that in a Q&A. And so it's the biggest draft mistake everybody makes every single year. Well, not everybody, but you guys know this: wasting your bench. So if you want to go see how you stop wasting your bench, you can check that out.
That sounds great. I know that's been a talking point for you a lot this summer as we've done more shows together. Is the not wasting your bench? I know that's a big point of yours. So definitely great piece of advice. Everybody should go check out everything that Jake is working on.
Which ties into today's piece. What we're doing today, these are 10 pieces that should be on your bench instead of those replaceable players.
Yeah, I forget some of the names we picked. Are any of this? Yeah, these guys are mostly not starters. So, I mean, some of them might be. But yeah, a lot of bench spots, guys, that can break out that we want to be looking at. Reminder for everybody that all of our 2025 consensus rankings and tiers can be found at fantasypros.com/rankings. Guys, let's dive right in. Like I said, we're going to go 5-1 here. So we'll be ending with kind of the biggest breakout candidate. But obviously, these are guys that, we believe in to some degree, all 10 of these names. Jake, we'll start with you. Who's your number 5?
My number 5, I'm going to quarterback first. I'm going to go to Bryce Young. I know a lot of people saw the end of last year and talked about his passing upside. And let's be real, he looked better than he had at any point in his NFL career. But I think the more interesting part for me was the rushing. And it's not like he's running for 700 yards over the course of the season. It's just that he started calling his own number down the stretch, which partly hurt, dinged Hubbard a little bit. But I never thought that Bryce Young was going to step into the NFL and be like, 6, 7, 800 yards. But can he be in that realm of 300 to 400 where he chips in 5, 6, 7 on the ground just because he has that size and ability to take his own number? And I know people are going to say, oh, he's not big. No, but he's thick. And for the height that he is and the thickness, he can handle a few of those runs, handles a few of those shots at the goal line. And again, if he runs for 5, 6, 7 touchdowns on the top of 300 to 400 yards, oh, by the way, who we were talking about last year, who did this for the first time ever in his career, Baker Mayfield. And no, I don't think Bryce is going to throw for 4,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. But I'm just saying, when you add that facet of we were hoping to see the passing carrying over to this season, if that does at all, and he adds that dimension, we might be looking at Bryce Young by the end of the year as a fringe QB1, and he's outside the top 20. If you're going to double dip late, McCarthy is a great one, but I don't think that Bryce Young's that far behind McCarthy for their potential ceilings.
I really agree with this call. When I look at where he's QB 22 in ECR right now, and I look at that and I go, I feel reasonably confident actually he's going to finish better than QB 22, assuming health, because there is some of
or
that
significantly
rushing
worse.
element.
22 is wrong one way or
22
the
is
other.
wrong.
Yeah,
But-
agreed.
But the problem, I think, is like it's just such a deep position that I'm like, well, who am I moving down? Like, if I really want to plant my flag and say he should be higher, I don't know who I would move down. Like,
We're here, I'll tell you. I have him in front of Tua because Tua's QB 17. Like
Tua's
every single
the
time.
one.
See,
Yeah.
I have him in front of Geno because does Geno, had a good season, but is he really going to see a better season with the Raiders? He's going to be QB 16, 17, 18. And those are fine quarterbacks, but I don't want QB 16. I don't even want QB 14. I want somebody who could potentially be top 10. And like I said, 22 is wrong. Like if he gets to top 10, cool. Yay. We're all super excited. If he's a bust, you move on to the next one. Maybe you double tapped with McCarthy or Love or Stroud on a bounce back season. And that's why I'm going for him.
It's just remarkable how many names I like at the position. I mean, look, we're into the early to mid 20s at the position, and the names are Bryce Young, Michael Penix Jr., Geno Smith, Matthew Stafford, if his back's okay, Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick. I'm like, these guys are not even QB2s in a lot of cases, some of those names. So it's just a remarkably deep position. Debro, obviously the guy in this like 20s range that you like most is JJ McCarthy. That's old hat at this point. We know that. Besides JJ McCarthy, is Bryce Young one of your favorites in this range? Because I think Jake lays out a great case, and like we kind of even already saw it last year. I think Bryce Young is a great target late for the position.
Yeah, he's a fantastic target, man. Like especially in Superflex drafts, he's a fantastic target. And for everything that Jake laid out, and just to give more context to that breakout weeks 12 through 18, he was the QB 8 in fantasy points per game. The dude averaged 25.4 rushing yards per game, which might not sound like a lot. If he did that over the entirety of the full season, that would have been the 12th best amongst quarterbacks. So the line that I was kind of staring at, Jake, I want to get your opinion on this. Bryce Young or Trevor Lawrence? Because I feel like those two, like it's what and what with me.
I put it this way. They're almost back to back for me.
They are
Trevor
back to
Lawrence.
back for me.
Yeah. So worst case, Trevor Lawrence is last year, Trevor Lawrence, before obviously the injury. So like, if you want to say, hey, I'm going for somebody with QB1 potential, but I don't want to have to drop him, Trevor Lawrence is your pick. If you're going to double tap, like I said, Bryce Young would be I actually think Bryce Young's ceiling is higher, even with the weapons that Trevor Lawrence has.
Agreed.
I love Young this year. This is we can move on from it, but I just think this is a great pick. He
Nice,
rushed
smart
for
pick.
five rushing touchdowns in the last 6 games last season, and then you add this alpha number 1 receiver that I know a lot of us really like too, and he might be appearing on this list later. So just great call, strong agreement across the board. Debro, let's go to your number 5.
I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit here. I mean, it was the name that was going to get brought up by either Jake or myself, so I'm just going to go ahead and get it over with. I know I'm cheating a little bit because I understand Bill Croskey-Merritt, Jacory Croskey-Merritt on the site and the ADPs. It's not going to catch up fast enough. Right now, he's sitting in those like RB 60 to 70 range. Updating my rankings, he's in the RB 3 range now. And I'm doing some forecasting, but I got to bring him up here because everybody's talking about him. And I agree with the process. Like, I know I've seen all the tweets and everybody out there like, all right, at the 103, who are we taking? Is it Bill? Or are you taking Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb? But like, for in all reality's sake, if Brian Robinson Jr. is gone from this backfield, I think Jacory Croskey-Merritt is a name that we do need to be discussing. I moved him up in my rankings. Right now, at the time of recording this, I have him at RB 32. So I am forecasting that Brian Robinson Jr. is cut or traded. Now, if that doesn't happen, we get closer to week 1. As you're listening to this, rankings and things like that will change. But I'm putting him right into that Brian Robinson Jr. role. And I understand Chris Rodriguez is there. And I've loved Chris Rodriguez in previous seasons. This isn't an anti-Chris Rodriguez take, but to me, if you really believe in Chris Rodriguez, one, why didn't Washington use him at all last year? Why was he buried? Why'd they go draft another running back instead of putting more faith behind him? And Jacory Croskey-Merritt, even in the draft process, people go back and check out the NFL Draft Show for Fantasy Pros, talked about him there as a player who was being disrespected. Like, if this guy didn't get screwed over by the NCAA in 2024, I had a 4th-round grade on him. He was comfortably inside like my top 20. I think I had him at like RB 16, RB 17 in my rookie rankings post-draft. I mean, he was fantastic. Like, if you go back to 2023, and I understand it was at New Mexico, I get that level of competition. We're still discussing a player that was 19th in yards after contact per attempt amongst all FBS running backs with at least 100 carries and 12th in elusive rating. So playing this early down role in the Commanders offense, if he gets that role, people need to be drafting him somewhere around like a little bit outside of like that top 100. Like if you're sitting there and you're looking at all these RB3 handcuff type of candidates and he might go above that because again, the ADP is rising on him, but I think that's the range where we should be discussing him because if he has that role in this offense and the goal line role and Austin Eckler keeps his standalone pass game role, we're discussing a guy that like, depending on how touchdowns go and how the early down volume goes, he's in that fringe RB2, RB3 conversation.
So let me jump in and point out. So we actually literally just this week launched something called real-time ADP.
If you didn't bring it up, I was going to, Worm.
Yeah, and so this is a great example of that. Now, this is still going to sound pretty low because people are still in the process of catching up because this is all like very recent. So I think this number will continue to go up even higher. He is up to an early 12th round pick. He had been multiple rounds behind that prior to this. So he's already jumped to light. If you're looking at real-time ADP, it's got him at sort of like the 1204 right now. Again, that is multiple rounds up over what it was just more, over 24 hours ago. That is going to continue to rise. But real-time ADP is this new feature we have on the site. I would highly recommend everybody check it out. ADP in general is kind of a lagging indicator at times. This is going to kind of keep that updated. We have our data science team, which is amazing, kind of worked to put this together and show like where guys are actually going, like as of this week, as of even just the day before, as of that day, when you get to these really busy draft weekends with our synced leagues. So keep an eye on that for examples like this. I think back to like Dameon Pierce a couple years ago when it became clear he was going to start for Houston, like late August. He had jumped up to like, fifth, sixth round pick when he had been going way. This is sort of a similar scenario where he's going to keep rising. Jake, 2 questions. 1, what do you think of Croskey-Merritt? And 2, are you officially going to call him Jacory or Bill?
It's gonna be Bill.
The funny thing is I'd be more upset by that, but if anybody knows my story, that my Jake name is actually not my name and what my real name is, I can't get too angry at him. So that's a podcast for another day. But like I like Croskey-Merritt. I'm slightly behind where Debro has him. I am at 37, but I'm right behind like Tank Bigsby, Judkins with his situation. But I think the Judkins situation is one where he should fall into because Judkins still isn't with the Browns. We got the news that he's cleared and then everything, but we're still waiting and we're assuming he's going to be the lead. But I think that's a fair spot to have him because assuming Brian Robinson is gone, we're assuming Croskey-Merritt's going to be the lead. I brought this up when we did the mock draft. It's not that I don't like Croskey-Merritt. I just think that what Debro just said, like Rodriguez is a good talent. I would put him third on this depth chart. But I think the interesting part here is Eckler's role is safe. Eckler is going to be Eckler no matter who's the lead.
Agreed.
And that's where I'm saying, like, okay, take Croskey-Merritt, give him Brian Robinson's role. Well, then he puts up Brian Robinson's numbers. And it's not that I don't like that. It's just where's the ceiling? And I think that Debro kind of said that you're potentially looking at back end RB2, but I think that might be it for him just because unless Eckler gets hurt, I just don't think there's enough touches. Hell, if the worst case scenario is Rodriguez is involved and all of a sudden we're looking at a full blown committee and we're banging our heads against the wall because we also have a running back or a running quarterback who every time we have these kind of situations, you go back to Cam Newton, Justin Fields, like we want one running back next to those guys. We don't want 2, possibly 3. So I think where we have him now, like I said, I have him at 36. Debro has him slightly higher. I think that's where he needs to be because you're taking the upside chance, but also baking in enough risk that he's not the guy. Don't go draft him in week 5 this weekend because you want to look super smart when your league is drafting.
I had a joke that I put out on social. It was me drafting Jacory Croskey-Merritt in the 3rd round at my live draft, and the image was just The Office. Pam, I feel God in this Chili's tonight. And I was like, I think people are going to feel God with some of these rounds they're going to be taking the Bill in at some point this season. But, he's one of those fun players that you have every August that pops up, and there's just a lot of hype about him. So it's one of the fun stories of preseason. I want to take a second to tell everybody about DraftKings. Get in the game. Best Ball is live at DraftKings. $15 million is on the line with real stakes and real excitement. Best Ball is the biggest fantasy contest at DraftKings. We're talking a $15 million guaranteed prize pool with 2 millionaires being crowned for first and second place. Play season-long fantasy football the DraftKings way. With Best Ball, there's no waiver wires and no roster management. You get bigger rosters so injuries won't end your season. Just draft your team and you're set. If a shot at winning a share of $15 million isn't enough to get you excited, check this out. DraftKings is offering everyone a draft one, get one special. Your $20 entry fee scores you a bonus ticket. Download the DraftKings app and use code FANTASYPROS. That's code FANTASYPROS for all customers who enter the NFL Best Ball $15 million millionaire contest to get a bonus ticket and get a shot at being crowned one of 2 millionaires only on DraftKings. All right, Jake, who is your number 4 breakout?
Yeah, I'm going to go to Cedric Tillman. And this was kind of somebody I was looking to get way late in drafts, even before we got the Joe Flacco news at quarterback. And even if they do turn to Sanders or Gabriel at some point, I don't think that's the end of the world for Tillman. But we all remember last year how excited we got during that stretch. And it really lasted 4 games. The 4th game wasn't all super exciting. But we're talking about not just the touchdowns, because of course that's going to inflate the numbers. He didn't have 100 yards in any of those games. He had 99 in one of them. But the biggest thing about it is we were talking about the targets. We're talking about 40 targets over 4 games. Cedric Tillman was leading. It's not like Jerry Jeudy was dead at that point. It's not like we're talking about he wasn't in existence. So 40 targets over those 4 games. I don't think Tillman's going to average 10 targets per game and have 170 this year. But the upside of that before he got hurt, even if he's just averaging 6-7 targets per game, for somebody that's going super late in drafts, that can be the number 2. And I know Njoku's a thing, but let's talk about the number. I think Ian Hardis was the first to bring it up about Joe Flacco over his last 17 full games where he didn't get hurt or come in for somebody who got hurt. Over his last 17 games, he's the lead leaguer in passing yards. Like, the dude's going to fling it even on the Browns. So yes, they could change quarterback at some point, whether it's Flacco's play or an injury. But I just look at Tillman as like at least a hot start to the season that maybe you flip before that situation comes up.
I think my favorite stat that I ever put on the Fantasy Pros social accounts was in like December a couple years ago when Joe Flacco had more passing touchdowns than Kenny Pickett ever had in his career. And he just was like on this heater. And I also just enjoyed knocking Kenny Pickett. But yeah, Flacco, like I told the story before. We did a Fantasy Pros. We do like a double NFL stadium trip one weekend every year. And for the content team, it's often hard to go. I did attend it last year. So it was super fun. And we did last year, one of the games was Ravens at Browns. It was like week 8 or whatever. It was the one that the Ravens lost against Jameis Winston to the Browns. But Cedric Tillman, I'm talking about the Ravens losing.
I'm just saying.
Cedric
Go ahead.
Tillman
Sorry.
Looked so dominant. It's one of those games where you watch a guy in person and he just passes the eye test so well that you're like, this guy, like, I'm just convinced that Cedric Tillman is a stud. And I will believe that until the day he retires, even if stats and future performance prove me wrong, because I watched him look so utterly dominant in person once. I just think he's a really good player. And I think the injury at the end of last season, the concussion stuff, like is coloring the opinion of everybody and like maybe not remembering what he was doing in those first couple of weeks. Now, quarterback situation really matters. So Flacco being in there is great. We hope that lasts from the Cedric Tillman perspective. But this is another one that I like. I really strongly agree with you, Jake, on Cedric Tillman.
Well, look at this. I just did some quick numbers, not even going back to Ian's tweet. His last 14 games where he was the full starter beginning to end, 4,200 yards. Yeah. That's insane.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
D-Bro, what do you got?
I mean, with Tillman, man, like, I mean, the volume can be definitely there. And I think one of the things that helps him, like, maybe ascend quicker as far as the number 2 target, or at least competing with Njoku for that spot is, dude, I was all in on Deontay Johnson as like a last round pick. The vibes have been pretty bad throughout camp. Like, came in out of shape, things like that. Like, there's worries. Like, again, like Jake just mentioned, like, I don't know if he's on the roster week 1. So again, like, my worries were, you know, and the thing that I was talking about earlier in the offseason was if Deontay Johnson didn't get cut, like if he didn't move on from Carolina, where we'll be drafting him, but you come in and like a team offers you a contract that you were like just sitting at home on the couch for much of the offseason and you're basically out of shape, you're not ready. That's not good, dude. So yes, that increases the pathway for Cedric Tillman.
Yeah. All right, D-Bro, let's go to your number 4.
Dude, we've talked about him on a bunch of shows. Need to talk about him again here. It's Tucker Kraft. I mean, going as the tight end 11, I mean, what he did on a per route basis. And we all have our own takes about, okay, who is the Packers wide receiver to draft this year? Who's the guy that could step up? Might not be a wide receiver at all. could be their tight end. And the skill set, I mean, he's an athletic marvel. So we know that the high-end athleticism is tied to possible high-end outcomes, or at least gives you that opportunity at the tight end position. It's one of the most correlated or highly correlated position to athleticism in all of fantasy. Like we talk about it year after year, like just because you run really fast in a straight line doesn't mean that you're going to be a good wide receiver. We see running backs who run 4.6s and stuff like that produce because of volume and what have you in fantasy. But with tight end, you've got to be a top-tier athlete or you're not going to put up possible top-tier numbers. And Kraft, I mean, the guy is just a medical marvel. Like, he's athletic as all get out. You look at the per route metrics last year. I mean, yes, he was 20th in target share. Yes, he was 27th in first read share. If those numbers come around, because, again, target volume is a reflection of not only of talent, and those targets are earned. Kraft could earn a crap ton. He's a quietly good bet to maybe lead the Packers in targets this year. And if he does that, he's going to have a massive breakout season because the per route efficiency was awesome last year. Like, amongst all 47 qualifying tight ends last year, Tucker Kraft, 12th most receiving yards. Again, on the limited volume that I talked about. He was 7th in yards per route run, 3rd in missed tackles forced, and he was 1st in yak per reception. So the per route numbers scream that if the Green Bay Packers want to feature arguably their most talented pass catcher on that roster, that could be Tucker Kraft. And if this all happens, dude, he could be sniffing like top 5, top 6 type of production this year.
Do you think, Debro, there's a chance? I mean, you said top 5, top 6. Do you think there's a chance of him breaking into the top 3, or is that just too strong with Bowers, McBride, and Kittle?
It's possible, but with those guys, what they need to happen for him to even sniff that rarefied air, the Packers are going to have to lean back into the passing game, and not like in a league average passing rate, but they're going to have to be somewhere in like the top 14, 15 type of phylum as far as passing rate for him to get the target volume to even be close to competing with those guys. If that doesn't happen, then no, I think the more like high-end expectations for him is probably top 5, top 6.
Jake, what do you think? Do you think there's enough volume there for anybody in this Packers offense? I mean, the reputation, like Debro was alluding to, is that the ball gets spread out a lot. That's what a lot of people talk about. Do you think Kraft can rise above that and have this kind of like top 5-ish tight end season?
I do, mostly because it's a twofold factor here, is that we expect better for Jordan Love. The guy was basically dealing with an injury from the gate, jump out of the gate, and then got injured again. And so he's dealing with 2 last year. And I know he's already got the thumb, but that's on the other hand. I think that if you see Jordan Love bounce back, you want to talk about injuries. We are also dealing with injuries to Dobbs, Wicks, Savion Williams. He was even hurt, the other rookie. Like, it's down the line. We have one clear option. Matthew Golden is clearly going to be the one, but is it actually Reed even got banged up this preseason? Like, who's healthy? So like the biggest question here might be, this might be the Chiefs. This might be the other teams where the tight end is actually the number 2. And if so, I was actually going to ask Debro this because I'm really curious, is back when the draft happened, I made a joke and people came for me. I was like, but I made a joke. It's like, it's weird that they took the better tight end around later when they took Kraft after Musgrave. And oh my God, the people that came for me on that one, I was like, just wait. So were you on me with that one? Because that's the other reason I like it. Okay.
There's a receipt out there. I tweeted this right after the draft. I was a big Tucker Kraft guy in that draft class, and I was not in on Luke Musgrave. I tweeted this, and people can go search X for it. It's still out there somewhere in the ether, that this was the same exact situation as when Baltimore drafted Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews. And Kraft was the Andrews in this conversation.
Now who's bringing up the Ravens, Debro?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm just trying to help you hit the over here.
No, I actually agree. I think that's a good comp in terms of like the better guy going later. I think I might be misremembering, but I think what the year the Ravens took likely, it was after they took Kohler. It was in the same round. I forget who they took first, but that's like another one where like the better tight end goes later. I think likely might have been taken. I can't remember. They were taking.
I'm gonna have to look it up.
It was the year they had like 5 4th-round picks, so I don't remember the order. But to your point, like the clear example there is like Andrews and Hurst as like a comp is the same. I totally agree with you. Like Kraft, I liked Kraft better too. I'm not as in the weeds with the prospects as you guys are, but like I also liked Kraft better. So I would love to see him get the volume for this to pan out. I am pretty invested in Kraft and Dynasty. I think he's a really talented player, and I just like you talk about D-Row, the per route metrics are so good that like I want to see him get more opportunity because I just think he's a really good player.
Yes, to your point, Kohler went at 423, and I likely was 11 picks behind him. So
Yeah.
spot on Ravens knowledge. Of course, we would expect nothing less from Worm.
I think what it was they wanted Calvin Austin, and then the Steelers like traded up and took Austin, and so then the Ravens had to switch, and they were like, "Well, we do like Likely, even though we already got a tight end." So yeah, I mean, it's happened on more than one occasion that a team like takes multiple tight ends in the same draft, and the second guy is just better.
Mm-hmm.
In fantasy sports, flexibility is everything, especially when you're managing injuries, bye weeks, or tough matchups. Your finances deserve the same level of control, and that's exactly what Klarna delivers. Klarna is your smarter, everyday spending partner. Inside the app, you can track purchases, compare prices, find deals, earn cash back, and choose to pay now or later with no interest when payments are made on time. It's the kind of tool that helps you stretch your money further and make every purchase count. This isn't about spending more, it's about spending wisely. Klarna fits seamlessly into how you already shop, whether you're picking up groceries, upgrading tech, or even just keeping an eye on your budget. Klarna gives you the financial flexibility to shop smart and stay in control, just like a good roster move. Download the Klarna app or head to Klarna.com to learn more. CA resident loans made or arranged pursuant to a California finance law license, NMLS number 1353190. Klarna balance account required. Klarna may get a commission. Limitations, terms, and conditions apply. All right, Jake, let's go to your number 3 breakout candidate.
This one might feel a little layup-ish just because of the recent news, but I just wanted to point out Braelon Allen to call back. You and I'm talking to Worm here on this one. This was like 2 months ago at this point where we were talking about Justin Fields and looped in the running back situation. And I said, it was explained, I think it was one of those where running backs were not drafting in quotes or something like that. And I was saying why I was out on Breece Hall and just like check the receipts. And this isn't to be like, haha, this is all we're doing today is checking receipts and victory lapping. But I want to bring up the reason of why I was off Breece Hall. And it's because if you look back at Justin Fields' teams and back with the Bears in his best season, the running back that was next to him when they were inside the 10 and getting the touchdown equity was the bigger back because it offsets Fields' style when you get to the goal line. The pass catching, elusive running back kind of bottles things up a little bit for what they're both. You basically have two guys trying to do the same thing. So you bring in the bigger back and you kind of offset what the defense is prepared for you. Now you have to stuff the middle, but also extend outside to prevent Fields or the elusiveness. So that's why I brought it up. Is like, I was really concerned that Braelon Allen was not just going to be a timeshare, but he was going to steal these important touchdown equity carries in a backfield where we go back to the running quarterback. That's kind of what we have to chase when you're talking about a split backfield. And I don't think Breece Hall is going to be terrible. I would still take him as a mid-low RB2, but I think Braelon Allen's in the conversation to steal the work. And I would almost give it the reverse of the Steelers last year. Like basically if Jalen Warren was the lead and Najee Harris was the second piece, I think that's what we could see for the Jets, which again goes back to the touchdown equity. And all that being said, I do think there's a non-zero chance where he's so good that all of a sudden Breece Hall is kicked into the complimentary piece. That's a possible outcome here. So I think that Braelon Allen not only getting to relevancy where you can use him, but also having the upside if Breece Hall were to stumble, or hell, if he got hurt, Braelon Allen would be a top 20 running back option. So I think there's a lot of appeal for Braelon Allen those mid-rounds.
Debra, where are you at on Allen? Is he somebody that you are reaching for, like in the anticipation of maybe a better workload and a possible breakout, or are you going against Jake on this one?
No, I'm fine with Braelon Allen where he goes. I think if you're trying to catch up with running back, or if you're playing the possible outcomes in the Jets backfield, there's a non-zero chance that Breece Hall is gone. They trade him away at some point this season, and Braelon Allen is the guy that where you plug in, and he's maybe like a touchdown dependent flex at the beginning of the year, and maybe he vaults to being an RB2, because I do believe whether it's Breece Hall and Braelon Allen or Isaiah Davis and Braelon Allen, this is going to stay a committee. But can Braelon Allen usurp, or can he take the lead in that committee? Because the vibes around Breece Hall and the preseason usage we've seen so far, it's been split almost down the middle. And Aaron Glenn has been true to his word. Like, they're going to use multiple backs. So, like, where he goes in drafts is totally fine, taking a shot on him.
Where's he ranked for you, Debra?
Ooh, I've got him somewhere in the RB3 conversation. Somewhere
he's RB 46 in ECR right now.
I've got him somewhere in that RB3 conversation, depending on the day. I'm still kind of like today. I'm kind of updating ranks. So
you take Braelon Allen or Joe Mixon if you draft today.
Oh, good Lord. Braelon Allen. I'm not Joe Mixon is straight up. Joe Mixon is off my draft board. Not drafting
even around 14.
not. I'm not price enforcing. I want nothing to do with Joe Mixon.
Somebody asked me that the other day.
Nope.
What's the price enforcement on Joe Mixon? I was like, none, zero.
Yeah, not doing it. Nope.
Could not have less interest. It's there's a great sign that I've used as a meme on the Fantasy Pros account before. It's some car dealership and it just says 0% interest. That is me with Joe Mixon in drafts. I have 0% interest.
Who runs the Fantasy Pros social account, by the way?
Yeah.
Just
all right, let's go to Dero, your number 3.
Yeah, so the third guy, again, like kind of we were talking about low-hanging fruit here. I feel like this is obvious, but we got to talk about him, man. Ricky Pearsall. Like, he's at wide receiver 42 in ADP. Like, you'll see him anywhere from, like, the wide receiver 3 to the wide receiver 4 range. I want to stay above consensus because I think the breakout is real and it's coming, man. Like, I went back and this past Sunday, I watched all the All-22 so far of the preseason of Ricky Pearsall. Earlier this offseason, I went back and I watched all of his routes from last season. And the usage changed throughout the season for Pearsall, and I think we're seeing a different player than we saw at any point so far in the preseason than we saw at any point last year. His crispness getting off the line, his releases, his in-route ability to gear down and separate has been fantastic. You've seen in the preseason, like, there's been talks about him and Brock Purdy working out in the offseason, and you saw the continuity in the preseason. There's one particular route where Pearsall was either running a slant or an over route. I forget the exact route he was running. But during that, he's crossing the middle of the field. And you're like, dude, if you keep going the way you're going, you're just going to get washed out in the play. He sits down as Purdy's moving to his left. He sits down in the middle of his own coverage. Purdy, it's like he anticipated he was going to do that and nails him on the crosser. And so I think you're seeing the continuity, the role, and the player's talent just bubble to the top. And then when we zoom out about this offense, we don't know when we're going to see a healthy and effective version of Brandon Ayuk. Juwan Jennings is dealing with the calf injury, whether that's real or contract related, we can all discuss. But then it's this passing attack boils down to, especially in the early going, like everybody keeps talking about Juwan Jennings and what he did last year. Dude, what if that's the Ricky Pearsall role this year? What if he's the guy getting the 30% first read share? And we saw that at the very 2 last games of last season where he was operating that role and he looked freaking amazing at doing it. Like in those 2 games, and I know it's a small sample, but we have seen him flash. We have seen them feature him in a high volume role where he was the wide receiver 7 and the wide receiver 14 in those 2 weeks. He almost a 22% target share and he had a 30.4% first read share and he crushed. So I think we're looking at like, yes, this is a guy who has former first round draft capital. You look at all the parts or pieces around him and it just screams, we need to be above market and this guy is heading for a huge season.
It's funny because we did a breakout segment with Andy Behrens and Andrew Erickson on the Fest yesterday, and Andy picked Ricky Pearsall, and he said the same thing you did at the beginning, which is it kind of feels like low-hanging fruit, like might be too obvious of a pick, but I think it's worth continuing to bring up because he is still ranked. I mean, his ECR is wide receiver 36. Catching up, man.
Catching up.
Behrens was saying, he was like, I have him as like borderline, like as an RB2. Like this is a guy that should be going inside the top 24. Given all the stuff that you just listed out, and he was, making similar points yesterday. Like, I don't know if you would rank him there. That kind of tier of receivers is very big. We've talked about that before, Jake. Those like kind of mid-20s into the 30s range of receivers can go a lot of different directions. But Pearsall is currently at the back end of that. Technically, he's at the top of tier 6 right now, and that just like it's not going up, despite the fact that we keep bringing him up and saying this is too obvious of a pick. But we have to keep bringing it up because he is still ranked in an area that just feels too low, Jake.
So when I opened this list, the first name I noticed on D-Bros was like, son of a, he took Ricky Pearsall. I just knew it. Like, and to be fair, like I actually had him as my number 1. So haha, D-Bro, I take you one step further. No, but if you weren't watching the video, I pointed at D-Bro when he said one thing, and I'm glad he brought this up. So when Pearsall came out of college, it actually said coming out of college, he's Darius Slayton right now because he doesn't work zone well. And what Debro just said is like, he will run straight through the openings in zone. He won't sit down. He won't find the space. He'll just keep running and not know when to stop the routes or pull them off. And you saw that development shortly at the end of last year. Debra brought up a really good point in the fact that, everybody's like, well, he didn't have much through his first couple of games until the end. He was being used differently. Again, there's development with how the team and the player both go hand in hand. And everybody wants to talk about Jennings, and admittedly so, but let's talk about, if not for that 40-point game, after that, and Jennings was already the dude at that point. After that, he had 5 more games of double-digit points. 3 of those were between 10 and 12, not even huge games. And after that point as well, 6 games of 7 points or fewer. It's not even like he was gangbusters after that huge game. He was basically our boom or bust wide receiver 4. So if you're looking at who steps into this role, which is the one thing I want to bring up too, as I said that a few months ago, is I know Debra will echo this too, is that when Ayuk comes back, I kept bringing up Ayuk's threat is Jennings. Like, Jennings loses his job when Ayuk comes back. Ayuk does not replace Pearsall. Pearsall stays. Pearsall fits the Debo role. He's not Debo, but he fits that role, and that's what's most important here. I cannot agree more on Ricky Pearsall.
Jake, let's go to your number 2.
I actually forgot my number. I was so jazzed up for Ricky Pearsall.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. It's Marvin Mims, and this is going to be strange for anybody that's listened to me throughout the years because I was never the biggest Marvin Mims fan. One of the things that I said about him was he's a possession wide receiver, which immediately creates a perception, and people lose their minds for that one because people think possession, they think 10 yards and down. My point about that is that Marvin Mims, it can be 25, 40 yards downfield, but he catches the ball and goes down. That was my point. It's like wherever he catches it, end of story, it's over. There's no yak with him. And that was my biggest concern, is that it's just where he's going to be on the field when he catches the ball and then cool, whatever. So he's really dictating on how many targets he gets, how big of his plays are. And yes, he has tons of big playability. Somebody else who's developing, and not surprisingly, developing under Sean Payton. And I know there's been late talk with all the other wide receivers and maybe when another one steps up. But as of what we've seen so far, he's clearly been the number 2. He's been run out there as the number 2. He's coming off the field with the starters. And if he has any development underneath the Sean Payton, I was not a huge fan of Pat Bryant, but I like Pat Bryant after the drafting position because it's like, hey, there's some similarities to like a Michael Thomas big slot option. Well, he doesn't always have to run in the slot, that being Marvin Mims, but a similar style profile if that Sean Payton has turned him into that, which is very possible. And now we're talking about Marvin Mims clearly as the number 2 and potentially having 100 plus targets, because here's the really other interesting part, not to come for Evan Ingram, but Evan Ingram's use so far in the preseason has not been the Joker and not been a very heavy target basis as he's been rolling out some 2 tight end sets and even some single tight end sets, which haven't included Ingram. So if we're looking for who the 2 is, similar to the Kraft situation, the 2 that we know right now is actually Marvin Mims.
I want to ask you this, Jake. Marvin Mims is wide receiver 58 in ECR. Cedric Tillman is wide receiver 57 in ECR.
Oh,
who do you like
2 of
better?
his favorite things.
Marvin Mims more than Tillman, and that's why he's higher up on my list. But I would take both
same.
well over ECR right now.
Yeah, late 50s is pretty low for those guys. Like Brandon Ayuk is ahead of both of them with his injury stuff going on. Christian Kirk is ahead of both of them. I'd rather take them.
Darnell Mooney. Raheem Morris was like, we hope to see Darnell Mooney this season. He said this season. Like, how are we still taking Mooney over both of them?
Yeah. Bateman, who I like, is ahead of both of them. I think that's a mistake.
Oh, good. Tell me what 4 good games Bateman's going to have, and then you can draft Bateman. If
Fair.
you can tell me the 4 good weeks, go right ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, no, they're late. It's funny that they're both back to back. Debro, you have a long history with Marvin Mims. What do you think about him this year as a breakout candidate?
Dude, I think it's very telling, and I was honestly shocked when he came out. And what was it? It was a preseason week 1 or week 2, and he ran, what was it, 15? I'm pulling this all out of memory. 15 of the 16 snaps that the starters ran, and he's on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. Like, I wasn't expecting that, dude, to be honest. Like, especially if you look at his usage last year, it was so gadgety. It was backfield stuff, backfield routes. His design target rate was through the freaking roof. And I was like, oh, dude, this is not a guy we're going to like worry about this year. I bumped up his ranking. Like, I had him languishing in like the low 60s, high 70s. I bumped him up to where I'm basically kind of like even with ECR. Like, I'm in the like somewhere in the 50s on a daily basis with him because I want to be even with ECR with him because that full-time role I wasn't expecting. But again, like it comes back to the preseason, what do we take away from their usage? What is good usage nuggets, and what is paralysis by overanalysis? And I think the usage from Marvin Mims is something we do need to take into account with how we're looking at his ranking, how we're looking at and projecting his role for this year. And again, as we learn more about these players, what do you take away and what do you just toss in the trash and say, that's noise, that's garbage?
Yeah. Let's go to your number 2, Debro.
Oh man, this is a guy that I've been above consensus, remain above consensus. It's funny, Jake and I were talking about him pre-show before we turned on the mics and the cameras, but George Pickens, baby, breakout season, here for it. I tweeted this out and I fully believe this year. The Dallas Cowboys are going to be this year's version of the Cincinnati Bengals, and in this comparison I'm making, George Pickens can be the T. Higgins in this offense. I bumped up his ranking. I still think ADP, ECR, best ball, all the things, he's still going too freaking late. The breakout is coming, and for a player that I'm comfortably ranking him aggressively as a wide receiver 2 and is being drafted as a wide receiver 3, the talent is there. Now the volume is going to be there. Going from a Pittsburgh Steelers offense last year that was bottom 10 in passing attempts to a Dallas offense we know is going to be top 5 to 10 in passing attempts, it's wheels up for George Pickens, man. And last year, Arthur Smith could not stop him from putting up strong per route metrics where before the hamstring injury, weeks 1 through 13, this dude was 18th in separation and 8th in yards per route run. He's not coming off the field. We're not going to get any of the Arthur Smith ignorance this year. Like, Dallas knows where their bread needs to be buttered, and George Pickens, all the vibes are awesome. That's the other thing. In a contract year where we're talking about Jerry's doing stupid stuff with Micah Parsons, everything is aces up right now so far in the preseason and camp for George Pickens. I don't know if Dallas pays him or not, but he is going to put up one heck of a season and really make the case that Jerry's going to have to open up the pocketbook yet again.
I was pulling up his stats, so I'm sorry if you said this and I just missed it. Where do you have him ranked, Debro? He's currently ECR is wide receiver 29 and half PPR scoring. Is that
I have him as a top
sounds like
15,
too low.
Top 15 wide receiver.
Top 15.
And I'm gonna stand on that. Top 15.
Wow. I figured you'd be much higher.
Top
actually,
15.
I didn't realize top 15. Wow. What do you think about that, Jake?
I'm wowed by it, but I think it's in the world of possibilities because the one conversation that Debro and I were having before the show was that his name needs to be in there with T. Higgins and Jameson Williams and Devonta Smith and all the twos on offenses where the volume is there, clearly the option. Yeah, Jake Ferguson could bounce back, but it's not going to be the volume that George Pickens is going to see, and just kind of similar to those names. And the biggest thing is that if he finishes 15, Debro is going to look super smart. But the thing is even if he finishes wide receiver 25, that's not going to be like he was wrong. It's just, it might be a difference of 1 or 2 touchdowns because this tier is so enormous. I mean, we go from T. Higgins at what I have him as like wide receiver 13, 14, and you go down to where I have like Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle is another one that should be in this conversation. Jalen Waddle into the mid-20s. And the difference between them are like 1 to 2 points per game, if even 2. It's more like 1.5. So it's not a huge difference. So yeah, it might sound crazy to be like, oh my God, wide receiver 15, but he's just making a statement and that like he thinks that's the real upside for Pickens. I might not disagree. I mean, I agree. I disagree, but I still have Pickens in the high 20s. So it's like that. Yep. I'm not that far off.
That long tier, it comes down to volume and it comes down to touchdowns and stuff like that. And I think when we look at the projection of Pickens, his volume, median, and upside case with how much Dallas is going to throw the freaking ball. Like, we know where the ball is going. The running backs are not going to take a huge chunk of the passing game out of this. Even if Jaden Blue breaks out in a full way, I don't think he's a guy that's getting 60, 70, 80 targets in that offense. So it's like, where the heck is the volume goes? Where does the volume go? If Dak Prescott is going to be top 5 to 10 in passing attempts, where does the volume go? We know CeeDee Lamb, but dude, he's going to get his 160, 180 targets or whatever. All right. So where's the rest of it go? Do you think Jake Ferguson's getting 150 targets? Well, that's not happening. So where's it going? It's going right to George Pickens.
If you go to player pages on Fantasy Pros and click on rankings, you can see where each expert has a guy ranked. Debro is the highest ranked expert on George Pickens.
I thought you were going to say if you just go to his player page, it's just a picture of Debro, actually. George Pickens.
I'm just staring like a George Pickens. I'm just staring at the TV. Should look at the rankings.
Debro is the highest. He is 16 spots higher than ECR, according to our page here. Some of the other there are some well-known guys in the industry who agree with you though. Like Jacob Gibbs is second highest. Matt Harmon is up there. He obviously knows receivers really well. Dalton Del Don is up there. So you are on an island in terms of being the highest, but you're not on an island in terms of anybody not being near you.
You're gonna say it with your chest. Don't say it at all.
You can see where your favorite breakout candidates are coming off the board and save yourself from getting sniped by using our draft simulator. The draft simulator allows you to practice quick and fun, realistic mock drafts based on your league settings in minutes. Use the pick predictor to see the percent odds that any player will be taken ahead of your next pick. Sync your league for free and try it today at fantasypros.com/mock or download the Fantasy Football Draft Wizard app. It's funny, I was talking to my sister on the phone yesterday because she called me for my birthday, which is really nice. She has 3 kids under the age of 6, and she does play fantasy, and she was talking about how her husband, who's in our fantasy league, like our big family league, has done all these mock drafts already, but she hasn't had time. And I was like, what are you talking about? Use the mock draft simulator. And she was like, well, I don't have like an hour. I was like, are you kidding me? Your brother works for the site and you think it's going to take you an hour? These are so quick. And she literally said to me, you should say it on the show so people know it's really quick and easy. And I was like, this is all we talk about. What do you?
Anybody with kids knows that you have the few minutes of solitude to yourself when you go to the bathroom. If you're sitting on the freaking toilet, you run a mock real fast. It's not hard. It's really not hard.
Oh, can I say something real quick about
Just
that?
saying.
I forgot my phone downstairs and went to the toilet this morning. I was so lost. I didn't know what I just staring at the wall. Like, what do I do? Like,
Wait, it should be just a daily rule. When the coffee kicks in, it's time to mock. Okay.
Time to mock.
Straight up.
Yes. So I won't throw her under the bus by naming her by name, but I will throw my sister under the bus by saying mock drafts are quick and easy. Use the simulator.
Yes.
All right. We got one breakout candidate left from each of you guys. Jake, who is your number 1?
This feels like the most layup of mine. I'm going to go with Odunze, and I think that's obvious to a lot of people. But I will say there are a lot of people that I do an article every single year. It's last year's trash. It's the people that like really disappointed that nobody ever wants to go back to. That's another mistake people make in drafts is writing people off. Like, oh, I'm never going to draft them again because blank happened to me, or they didn't do this last year, or whatever it might be. And I get it. After the 4th year, yeah, it might be hard to convince you to take Kyle Pitts one more time in the double-digit rounds, but at least he's almost free this year. But Odunze, it was part being his own fault last year. Yes, Caleb Williams struggled. Yes, that offense was all over the map with the firing of Waldron, and then there was a little bit of a brief spell where we're like, okay, cool, Thomas Brown's fixed things. Caleb Williams is running a little bit more, making his first reads, and then it reverted back as Brown had to step up and things changed. But all that being said, Rome was part of the problem too. There were some consistency issues with him, some concentration drops, but we're still talking about somebody if we go back to last year's draft. And we brought up this question. Fitz did it a few weeks ago. It was like, hey, if Pacheco never got back on the field last year, wouldn't we be drafting him higher for the injury optimism? So I went to this and I said, let's say Odunze was like J.J. McCarthy, got hurt and never played his rookie season. He'd be getting drafted higher because it'd be like, oh my God, we know who Odunze is, the talent, and we never saw the disappointment. But if everything's going to be better for Caleb Williams with Ben Johnson, everything's going to be better for this offense, and we're excited about the 3rd and 4th options about Luther Burden and Colston Loveland, who still has to get past Cole Kmet. But my point being, if we're excited about all those, how are you not excited for the number 2, who, by the way, has a world where he might be the most valuable Bears wide receiver? Because the interesting thing so far is they're playing a hell of a lot of DJ Moore outside. And I like all 3 wide receivers because I think all 3 can play the slot and outside to varying levels of success. But the one that's done the most Amon-Ra St. Brown-ness so far through the preseason and what we've seen from team reports has been Odunze. So I think there is a world where we get to the end of the season and all of a sudden, similar to the conversation that Devontae Adams could outscore Nakua. I'm not going to bet that Odunze outscores DJ Moore, but I certainly think it's a possibility.
Yep.
I have a rule, Debro, where I'm like, if I really believe in the talent and the situation and the player in general, which I do with Odunze, I am always willing to look past year 1. I am less willing to look past it if it's like another disappointment in year 2, like, fool me once, shame on you, that sort of thing. Like, yeah. But year one,
Yeah.
especially if it's so easy to explain, right? Like there's a very logical Occam's razor explanation of, yeah, the situation was terrible. And like you said, Jake, it was some of that was on Odunze too, but really tough situation. I'm willing to look past that in year one and basically draft him as if that didn't happen. Now, I'm not going to draft him as if he had a breakout season already and, let's go be super aggressive and I love him or whatever. But I am willing to give a second chance on somebody like that. Somebody like Kyle Pitts or Trevor Lawrence, it's harder because it's been multiple times. But Rome Odunze, that first year, I'm always very willing to do that. So, Debro, are you also going back to the well on Rome Odunze this year?
Yeah, I mean, he's in that bucket of guys, wide receiver 3-4 range, where it's taking shots. You're splitting hairs on guys, right now in best ball ADP on fantasypros.com, you have Ricky Pearsall and Rome Odunze are right back to back at wide receiver 33 and wide receiver 34. And it's a very similar conversation. It's guys that didn't fire last year and who are you in on and who are you out on? Like, I could sit here and we make the easy case. This, we talked about this last year. It was like, okay, is Rome heading for a JSN type of rookie season? We can't all be surprised if that happens. Then it goes out and it happens. And it's like, okay, well, are you out or are you back in? And I think there's going to be a lot of different opinions on Rome and where he's going in drafts. I have no issue with right now.
I love that because that was one of the things we said about Rome last year. I say we as in us, even on this show, is that hey, he's being placed on a team third behind two talented wide receivers, and let's be patient. And we just saw it happen with JSN. And what did JSN do last year, by the way? Okay, let's realize there's a world that Rome can do it even without a fall off from DJ Moore.
Yeah, going in the mid-30s is just, I think it's great because the downside is again, you don't have to draft him as if he already broke out. This is a very reasonable cost.
If Caleb Williams is going to be the first quarterback in Bears history to throw for 4,000 yards and 30 plus touchdowns, it's got to go somewhere. DJ Moore's not going to have 2,000 yards and 25 touchdowns.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rome's coming along for the ride if it happens. Agreed.
Yeah. All right, Debro, wrap us up with your number one, which will surprise nobody.
Yeah, it shouldn't surprise anybody, man. And again, I keep talking about low-hanging fruit, but man, this just feels like an easy call. And I know he's gotten a lot of steam because I think people have come around collectively, like the whole fantasy industry. Like, this is a guy I've been talking about since preseason, but man, I want to stay aggressive. I want to stay above ECR. And I've got him as a wide receiver 2. He's still being drafted in so many different formats as a wide receiver 3, and it's Tetairoa McMillan. I think, and I'm not projecting this, but I think we could be living in a world, and Worm, I brought this up, and I got to give you your flowers. You said this, not stealing this from you. We easily could be living in a world at the end of this season where Tetairoa McMillan puts up Malik Neighbors type of rookie season numbers, and I don't think that it's crazy. I know people are going to eye roll, and I know they're going to say it's insane, but it's not, man. If we just talked about earlier in this show about having faith and believing what Bryce Young did last year down the stretch is real, Canellis has come out and talked about it, and every Dave Canellis quote has come out and talked about, we are going to push Tetairoa McMillan. We are going to feed him. We want to run this offense through this guy. And everybody's like, oh, well, what about all the other? Really, you're worried about Adam Thielen at this point in his career versus a first-round drafted wide receiver. And I know people shaded him throughout the entirety of the process. He doesn't watch film. He's not fast enough to go top 10, except he does. And now he's crushing in the preseason. People can go check the timeline. There's joint practices where it's not he's dusting the CB5 on a freaking roster. He's getting open versus Derek freaking Stingley, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. So it's coach speak, it's talent, it's draft capital, it's belief in Bryce Young having a better year this year, and quietly the metrics all line up for Tetairoa McMillan. This is a guy that I think when we talk about his game, it's the ability to step in and play the alpha X role from day one. And I think he can do that for a player that over the last 2 collegiate seasons he played had the 3rd and the 10th most man coverage targets, and he smashed versus man coverage. He was 8th and 10th in yards per route run. And you marry this with an offense that, and again, this has not been brought up enough throughout the offseason, Carolina was quietly 4th in red zone passing rate last year. So not only does Het have the leeway or the pathway to get a ton of targets in this offense, if Bryce Young can be that guy this season, the touchdown upside with him is ginormous, man. He could spike 10 to 12 touchdowns this year if Carolina is going to run it back in an improved offense with improved quarterback play, and they're going to be top 5 to 10 in red zone passing rate, sign me up, man. It's one of the easiest clicks in all of fantasy right now.
Yeah, I feel like people who have been listening to the show all summer are probably tired of hearing me make that Malik Neighbors comparison because I brought it up a couple of times. But for those who are just coming to us now,
though.
I'm like,
it's not wrong.
Malik Neighbors, I think, is a better player than Tetairoa McMillan.
Yeah.
But the situation, like both top 10 picks who are stepping into, like, they are clearly going to get as many targets as they can handle. The Panthers, like with what we saw at the back half of Bryce Young last year, have a better quarterback situation, I think, than, Malik Neighbors had his rookie season. And what I keep saying is, like Malik Neighbors, this is the cheapest, in my opinion, that Tetairoa McMillan will be in drafts for the next 8 to 10 years of his career. He is going to be going higher than this, I think, this time next year. So I want to get the guy while he is cheap. We know that first-round receivers are a good investment in general. The fit it's a hand-in-glove fit in this offense, both in terms of what Dave Canales is looking for, both in terms of what Bryce Young needs, both in terms of what this receiving room needs. It just seems so perfect. And I don't care, frankly, that he is now going inside the 5th round. I'm looking at the real-time ADP right now.
Take him in the 4th.
It's gone up in the last week.
Easy.
It's about the 505 is where he's going. I don't care. I just think he's really good. It's a great fit. And I think you're going to be really happy with that pick. Jake, what do you think about Tetairoa McMillan?
So I'm really glad that Derek brought up something that I kind of said, because this is going to paint a picture of where it's weird for me. Is during the pre-draft process, I sat there and this is the dumbest thing ever. We sat here all year long, all college football season long, saying Tetairoa McMillan's the best wide receiver in this draft class. All year. We get to a month before the draft, and it's like, well, it might be somebody else. It might there's, let's kind of pick them apart. And I brought it up and I said, it's kind of like the Ohio State wide receivers every single year. Garrett Wilson fell into this. Jackson Smith and Jigba fell into this because we knew them. It's like people just want to find somebody else to talk about instead. And I was on that page, and then it's funny. It's like, it's been so frustrating to watch him just buried in drafts. But now it's comes full circle, and it's coming back around because a lot of people are waking up to what Debro's saying, what you've said, what I've said, or whatever. But I feel like it's going to depend on your draft, because I feel top 20 is a little aggressive for me. And I say this to say this is why.
It's aggressive.
It's not that I don't like McMillan. It's not that I'm worried about Adam Thielen or Jatavian Sanders or Leggett or whatever it might be. It's just I have him for 135 targets. That would rank 13th in the NFL last year. That's a lot of targets. To have 130, you're going to rank inside the top 15 almost every single year. The question comes down to, what do those 135 turn into? And where it could be Brian Thomas, 80 some odd catches, 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns. My concern is it's more Jacoby Myers, where it's 80 something, 1,000 and 4 or 5 touchdowns. Now, if Debro's right and they continue to pass like they have, and I brought up Bryce Young as my first breakout pick, and Bryce Young throws for 30 touchdowns, I'm going to be wrong, because I have McMillan as my high 20s. Like, he's not far out. He's still a wide receiver 2 for me. And I have him in front of Marvin Harrison. But I also think that Marvin Harrison's rookie season is the telltale concern that you can be one of the best talents. The situation might hurt you a little bit. Now, I do think that the Panthers aren't going to be stupid like the Cardinals are and be like, hey, Marv, go run the 4 verts. Hey, you know what? You run 4 verts again. Run a go route. Run 4, pick a dumb. Oh, I'm going to go off on Marvin Harrison. Like, the usage of the Cardinals. Could you
you're
tell?
not wrong.
The
Not
Cardinals
wrong at
are
all.
being stupid. The Panthers will not be. But I'm still concerned basically on the touchdown and yards equity, because Bryce Young was down by the bottom end of the league in yards per completion, which I found a little bit more stickier than air yards per attempt, just because it kind of tells you what happens. Like, you can attempt 40-yard passes all day long, but if you're not completing any of them, what does that really matter? So the fact that he's so low on that, I want to see it come up, and I do believe it can. I just want him more around wide receiver 2022, which is still pretty aggressive. I'm just not going to get into the bucket of this again. Happens to say, if we're all sitting here say, go get McMillan, he has Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas upside. I don't disagree with you, but don't make the mistake of drafting him in the 3rd round of your draft. And then now he has to do that for you to have any return on value.
I genuinely think he's going to be a top 15 receiver this year, but you don't have to draft him there, which is your point.
Nope.
That's the nice part.
Right.
Take him in the 4th round. It's totally fine. And you're going to be ahead of those people.
If I had to pick one receiver who's not currently in the top 12, who will be consensus top 12 a year from now, he's my pick like number one with a bullet. And I just want to plant my flag at him. I want to be aggressive on him. I want to make sure that I have him on my rosters, and that if I'm wrong, that's fine. Like, people are wrong all the time, but like, I just have a lot of conviction in McMillan. Situation, I think, the Panthers, we could talk about this for Bryce Young also. The defense is going to be bad. Like, they're going to throw a ton. And if Bryce Young is good at all, if he is even, and we always say this, if he is just what he was in the second half of last year, not even taking a step forward, if he is just what he was in the second half, that is more than good enough to support a talent like Tetairoa McMillan.
To Jake's point, if we were to take Marvin Harrison Jr. and airdropped him into the Carolina Panthers offense, and we didn't see the rookie season and stuff like that, where the hell will we be taking Marvin Harrison Jr. in this same situation? You know, so I just think it comes down to prospect fatigue, like Jake talked about, and it comes down to everybody like shaded this wide receiver class, and they shaded Tetairoa McMillan, and they said all these different things, and it's like, dude, like, you got to separate what's real and from the BS noise.
To Jake's point, I kind of want to do a dynasty league where we have our rookie draft just like the first week of January. I know you wouldn't know landing spots, but like, I don't want to get thrown off by all this other stuff. I just want to say, like, you know who was really good the last 4 months I was watching college football? Tetairoa McMillan. I know he wasn't as good as he was the year before, but like, he was still like, I'm tired of
I'll tell you this. If I ever step out of this industry and I just want to burn my career to the ground, I've done some research on people's draft positions of players at the end of the college football season to when the actual draft happens, when nothing is going on, and the changes and how wrong some of are. I'm just saying, I have some receipts that I'm going to burn everything to the ground. If evil Jake pops up after my career is done.
We'll wrap up on that threat from Jake Ciely.
I'm coming for you all.
Yeah. So those are our breakout candidates in the middle and late rounds. A lot of good names, a lot of agreement, arguably too much agreement on this show. But I thought you guys made really great picks. So hard to push back on any of them. So hopefully go get these guys. There's 2 draft weekends left. Go draft these players. Enjoy the next couple of weeks. Thanks everybody for tuning in. For Jake and Debro, I'm Ryan Wormeli. We'll see you again next time.